Hey everyone, Clint Butler here. Welcome to episode 1, 2025 of SEO This Week. Yep, we're back. I'm back. It's been 7 months since I did an episode, and frankly, there's a lot of reasons why. My wife's sick, obviously. Maybe some of you know, maybe some of you don't. And so that's taken a lot of, it's taken a toll. One, change your routines, going to doctor's appointments all the time, the stress of the disease she has and everything that comes along with that. And so I'm not making excuses, just giving you reasons. And with that, during the course of that, I was actually still doing the AMAs for SEO Intel. Well, I've left SEO Intel, as all partnerships must come to an end. That one has run its course. So I left and we're moving on. And with that, we're going to bring SEO This Week back. But I am going to bring it back in its original form. If you guys are longtime viewers or watchers, you get to see that I would actually go through and do news stories, talk about the latest and greatest in SEO news, go over the stories themselves, and then give you my opinions about them. And people's like that and seem to resonate with that. And I was, as far as I know, the first person to do that before all these SEO newsletters came out, the SEO notebook and a bunch of other ones that are prominent these days. I was the first one doing that and reviewing the news. So, and still, I think I would be the first ones that was actually, not only saying the news, but, giving an interpretation of it and how you guys should read it. So with that, we're going to get back to that. And then I'm also going to start, collect like 3 questions, three or 4 questions. Probably I'm going to stick with 3 because it's a nice number to remember, from different sources on SEO topics. And these things are like questions that I kind of see a lot, that you'll hopefully get something out of, right? It'll resonate with you. And I think that'll ultimately make the show better and move it on to make it valuable for 2025. So with that, let's get started. Okay, the first article is on the Systrix blog, and it's Index Watch SEO winners in Google search in 2024. And I would argue that it's subjective because a lot of these tools are based off of rank tracker, and they're based off of generic rank tracking, meaning there's zero proximity involved. So are they really winning as much as it's implied because of these tools? I mean, you can see this tool, Systrix, you can compare it with the real search results. And oftentimes I found when I had a subscription that it wasn't anywhere near close to proper ranking, personalization on or off, incognito on or off. It was just flat out wrong. And then SEMrush and Ahrefs are pretty much the same, but that's kind of the territory for these kind of tools. And I think that you should really look at this data as more as an insight into what to look into closer than to say that's the it. Okay. That's the rule versus the exception. So these tools are, here's kind of the idea of where we think things are going and what it's looking like. Now go check it out for real. And in this case, that's where you got to take this data. So first, we'll look at AI Overviews and Gemini. And a lot of people are, a lot of naysayers and fearmongers are saying AI Overviews are taking over search results and stealing all your traffic, and you're not getting any traffic. And in general, I would argue that your site probably wasn't getting much traffic in the first place, and it was probably or core update if it was getting traffic and lost it, not AI Overviews. And the reason for that is, one, it's generative AI, and people with any mild result of common sense will read it and go that 9 times out of 10 on like really important issues, that stuff is wrong, right? Or it's a copy of a website and it's requiring you, or when you read it, you're like, okay, I got to go look at the organic listings to find the right answer and be confident in it. So from a user perspective, AI overviews it's okay. It's a worse version of featured snippets. That's what I would think. That's how I call it. Two, it doesn't cite properly. So Gemini and the AI overviews will, in iterations that I've seen and during my course of my searches, it'll actually rip content straight out of a website. So it's not using AI overview, it's just using AI to scrape a website and post it up and call that the AI overviews answer. And it doesn't cite the websites that it's actually taking it from. It'll add third-party websites. So it'll take your information, put it up in the AI overview, and then cite someone else's article inside the list. It's not a fair use of content, in my opinion. Since we all own content, and if Google's AI overview tools are scraping that and then just pushing it up there and putting it on, to me, it's not a fair use because it's not citing it. Whereas featured snippets, at least you got some citation. In the AI overviews, you're not getting proper citation. So I can see that as an issue. And three, it is the idea that more people are going to use AI, and you're not going to get as much in regards to search traffic because AI is going to kill it. And I think that's inherently false as well, because these are still generative learning models, large language models that generate content and context. They don't necessarily create it with any intelligence, and users are savvy enough to know that. But how is the CTR from the search results going to be affected? And frankly, we won't know until someone does a large study to test CTR results and give us an indication, i.e., before a study was done, everyone was like, oh, you have Google ads. Your ads are going to get most of the traffic because it's in the top 5 of the search results. Turns out when they actually did a study, your average is about 5% of the clicks go to Google ads, and the rest go to the organic search results. And that's the same with when they added maps and a local map pack and featured snippets, people also asking all those things. You won't know the true CTR of the search results as it is until someone actually studies it with UI and people per pool, maybe even eye tracking, to see where all those clicks and all those searches are actually engaging with it. I don't expect Google to ever publish that, so it's going to have to be a third party researcher that puts that together. And so until that comes, I think it's fair to say that you should hold or let's put it this way. If people are telling you, oh, Google search is going to end because AI is there, I discount those people right off the bat. Search is not going to end because of AI. Search is going to morph. It's going to turn into different presentations, but there's always going to be a search engine reading your website, analyzing your content, and analyzing your code in order to rank it inside of a user interface in order for people to process it. And so it is going to modify it, obviously, no doubt, but it's not going to end it. Let's see. The rise of user-generated forums. This has gone on probably, a year now since Reddit got pushed up into the stratosphere. There has been another story where showing that they actually took a hit because Reddit launched a new service called Reddit Answers. And the theory behind it is because they launched Reddit Answers, Google's mad at them because now they can do rich snippets, or that people also ask, or the questions that typically, if you type a question in the search, you'll typically get a Reddit thread. Well, Google doesn't want to feed that. So the idea being that when they launched Reddit Answers, they made Google mad, and then Google removed their prioritization, or at least lowered the prioritization in the search results. So we'll see if that's actually the case. If it is the case, that could indicate that this theory that user-generated forums is the way to go, versus user-generated forums are manually promoted and demoted based on topics in order to provide the best search results. And I say best because a lot of the mass site guys, or a lot of the niche site people, were creating websites that really didn't have any trust. They were creating websites that didn't have a lot of trust, whereas user-generated sites are kind of think like reviews. You're going to read reviews. You don't know if they're real. You don't know if they're fake, but you're going to review them and then go, yeah, I want to buy that, or I'm going to go to this place. And they're thinking along that lines with the content as well, especially in regards to answers of questions. And they feel that if you have a user-generated content site or a forum, and they're using that to answer a direct question, if it's a decently trafficked forum or site, it will have users that are policing that to verify whether that answer is correct or not. So I think it makes sense for Google to show them what Google did, which was go full retard with Reddit. Probably not. But I don't think you should be running out and creating or try to recreate one of these forums or content sites unless you have an existing audience already that you can push into it and leverage it right away, and that it's going to actually stay engaged. So if you never tried to run a Facebook group or a Discord server or something like that, it's really hard to get people to stay engaged. And more than likely than not, you can have 300-400 members and 10 of them are going to be talking. And if you go through all the work to create a forum, then that's just going to make it, you're just going to see it so much better, and it's not going to be an engaging place. And ergo, Google probably won't push you up, so you're just going to be throwing your money away. So, but you can leverage some of those more popular ones in order to, probably gain some attention by leveraging what they're doing and leveraging the ranking, and get your brand in front of people, etc., by answering questions in those. So that's an option. Biggest winners in 2024, Reddit, YouTube, Spotify are the three that really would help you, especially if you're doing some link building stuff. Those three, if you're doing traffic generation, I would go with Instagram and Spotify. And then for branding, Reddit, YouTube, and Spotify in that order. Instagram, you got to really generate a following. YouTube, at least you get some suggestions. Spotify, it's, you get some suggestions, get on a roll, and you can probably gain more people downloading your podcasts. Even SEO This Week, when I was syndicating through Spotify, I would get 1,000 downloads a week. So you can keep trying that, and I think it'll be better for you. Another site is Facebook. Look at what is actually ranking in Facebook, though, pages and profiles, not groups, etc. And you can get a lot of benefit out of that and leveraging those again, especially if you find a page that just happens randomly in the search results that's not brand related. You go talk on that and share some links and do some link building and some brand recognition with that. Microsoft actually has an answers subdomain. I need to look into that more and see if that is anything like, say, a Quora or a Reddit, and see if we would leverage that a little bit better. Big winners in terms of percentage visibility of increase. Quillbot, I think it's interesting. I use Quillbot. It's a tool, so why is it up so high? And I think we're just looking at this metric here and kind of pulling out random pages at that point. But that'll be interesting to see what they're doing. And then the rest of this, I'm not really interested in. Hub pages, places still around. They have a subdirectory that's ranking fairly decent, but most of their user-generated stuff, not so much. So, programmatic SEO is actually increasing. There's a lot of people saying, "Oh, programmatic SEO is dead," and you're gonna, blah, 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 blah. I mean, even if this was complete bull and it's bloated by half, it's still up there, right? So I would look at programmatic SEO. Understand that programmatic SEO is not about just spamming and making 10,000 pages. Obviously, you certainly can. But it is there to make your life easier when you're making a lot of pages. So if you're doing local businesses and you target 10 cities, Google does not expect you to write 10 unique pages about your plumbing business. They want each page to represent or identify which city or area that it is targeting, and that's what they want. You can use 99% of the same content as long as you have enough differentiating content to identify the new cities or states that page represents, or where you're presenting your services, then you're good. And that's where programmatic SEO is helpful. Another part of that is if you have e-commerce store, you're not going to, well, you will need more descriptions and stuff like that, but for the most part, it's going to be a lot of the same. And you need to use programmatic SEO to fill in the blanks and use your database. So, and e-commerce is really, it's taking hold, and it's the norm versus the exception nowadays, and many people are buying stuff. So you want to look into e-commerce, and that's programmatic SEO. Uploading all your product lists into Shopify, you're doing programmatic SEO. You're using 8 templates filled by a database to create pages. So do look into programmatic SEO, see how you can leverage it. Not everyone can, not everyone needs to. But for sure, it's a faster way to deploy stuff. And it's like all tools. If you are a jack off and making 10,000 pages for no reason, then obviously Google's not going to rank 90% of it, much less index it. So stop doing that. Be thoughtful in regards to what you're doing and leverage the minimum amount of work for the maximum amount of results versus trying to do what we used to do in the old days, is throw out what we can and throw it at the wall and see what sticks. In this case, we want to be strategic about it because we're going to have to do more work to compete. And you can check out the rest of this if you want. It's on the Systrix blog. Speaking of, is SEO dead in 2025? I've been in SEO since 2009, and every year we get the same stupid question. And the fact of the matter is because every year us SEOs keep reading that, and it's generally a easy traffic generator. It's like a low-hanging fruit, no brains required question to ask inside of social communities, inside of SEO blogs, etc. The fact of the matter is, no, SEO isn't dead. Search engine optimization is not dead. It is not going anywhere. The search engines are changing in regard that, meaning, one, we have new ones. Perplexity, that's a search engine. It's powered by artificial intelligence, but at the end of the day, it's a search engine. Copilot inside of Bing, those are search engines. The way they use them, they're search engines. They're citing properly for the most part. Gemini, not so much a search engine. But Google is not going to go anywhere. They're not going to close down Google and no longer show organic results. They need the ad revenue. That's their money makers, that search engine. It is not going anywhere. It'll evolve. It'll make it harder to get into a little bit. Your competition will need to pay more attention. But at the end of the day, they're not going to replace the organic search results with AI generated overviews. It ain't happening. So SEO isn't dead, and it isn't going anywhere anytime soon. And even if Google shuts down the organic results and then shares answers with the AI generated thing, it's still going to cite the websites in some way or shape or form. So there's still traffic there. So you still have to optimize for this new AI search engine. So yeah, SEO is dead. It's a clickbait. Friends don't let friends host with GoDaddy. Friends don't let friends do very much with GoDaddy, as a matter of fact. I just buy domains from them, and that's the end of it. And typically, if I'm buying a brand new domain and registering it, I'm going to go to Namecheap. But I certainly don't use hosting. I don't recommend it. And one of the arguments that I always made was that GoDaddy doesn't secure their servers very well. As a matter of fact, most of those shared hosting services don't do it. GoDaddy is infamous where they won't secure their servers and do the work. And then if your website gets hacked, and you ask them to fix it, they'll charge you extra money on top of. And the FTC noticed, and they were generally was blind to security threats in his web hosting. Blind being in air quotes, because I think they just frankly just didn't do it. They just ignored it, like whatever, and hope that their users, if they got hacked, would pay to fix it. And then all those other sites that were on that hosting too, they also got hacked. All of those get to pay to fix theirs because they didn't seal the patch in the servers or whatever. It was just like a rinse and repeat process, and it was a good moneymaker. So why would they do that? So yeah, friends that let friends host with GoDaddy, and now the FTC is saying, hey, if you're doing it, this is what they're doing, and we have this complaint against them now. So you can check that out. And if people are like, oh, use GoDaddy hosting, send them this. Or even better, go find the URL to here it is, the FTC statement right here, and show them that. Like, get off GoDaddy hosting, get onto a premium service like Liquid Web. One of those guys actually will take care of you a lot better. So, Tik Tok Ban. They are recording this. This is the inauguration day, and supposedly Trump is going to kind of put this on hold for, according to stories, 60 to 90 days to give them more time to find someone in the U.S. to buy the TikTok, the part that serves the United States. So they're bringing that back up. This is kind of interesting because there's a lot of traffic to be gained. And I've seen some businesses, more high-end businesses, like there's a car guy that he has a TikTok channel, and he uses that in conjunction to build his YouTube channel, and uses that to build his customer base, and then sells high-end cars, like $100,000 plus cars, right? So TikTok is a good opportunity to make some money, to generate customers, etc. Because the users now, as it becomes more and more mainstream, or became more and more mainstream, it was less kids and more people with money. So even I wanted to, jump into that. I have run a couple TikToks on my TikTok account, but for the most part, I hadn't went all in because, frankly, they're talking about shutting it down, and we'll see if that actually happens. So if you already have a TikTok presence now that it's backed up, leverage it more, but talk to your subscribers there and get them onto another platform, Instagram, or maybe even YouTube, where you're kind of safe from future endeavors. Don't be like some of those people that are going and finding other Chinese-owned apps that are like TikTok and signing up for those, because if it happened to TikTok, it could happen to the other one too, and you're just asking for trouble for no reason whatsoever. Especially if you want to do that as a revenue stream. You're going to put your revenue stream into a property that could get shut down, just like TikTok. No one thought they were going to do it to TikTok. They did it. And so we'll see in 60 to 90 days whether it still exists. But for right now, I say if you're not on there already, just put your plans on hold, find something else to put that energy into until the TikTok question gets answered once and for all. This is a big one. It's running around. Google is requiring JavaScript to block SEO tools. So if you don't know, for the most part, SEO tools are scraping the search results, and Google doesn't like that. And the more obtrusive that those tools are, the more it costs Google money to provide those search results. So as a thing to make it more expensive to scrape, they turn the JavaScript, where now essentially you have to browse, you have to have JavaScript on there, and most of the scraping tools didn't use JavaScript. So we have got that on. Now there's a whole bunch of people saying, oh, it affected tools worldwide. I think that may be true, but it is not as like end of the world for SEO tools, like a lot of people are making out. The fear mongers, those clowns, right? So Ahrefs, SEMrush, they got a little bit of tickle. Quora SEO tool, Tech tool, that one's down for the count because he's using a third-party API to scrape the search results, and it screwed it all up. So Quora doesn't work the last time I checked. But for the most part, all the other SEO tools that I'm using are just fine. They all adapted very well. Rank Tracker from SEO Power Suite still works fine. That's my rank tracking tool that I recommend. So don't believe the hype. I think honestly it's good for the tools because that they're updating to the most recent content or the most recent view of the search results now, and maybe, just maybe, it might result in more accurate rank tracking. Well, we will see. All right, that's the end of the stories. Let's get into the questions now. And first one is, client says they will pay me when they get paid from their customer. I see this a lot in digital marketing groups and agency groups, especially in a couple of subreddits here that are related to agencies and agency work. And like every day there's someone posting something like this. And all I can tell you is, do not lift a finger. Do not turn on your keyboard. Do not move a mouse key until you have gotten paid for that month. The work you're going to do that month, make sure your invoice is paid. Don't go the other way around and go, I'm going to work for 30 days and then invoice you, and be surprised if they don't send you pay. Don't be surprised if they don't pay you. That's just something that I learned a long time ago. A lot of people in other chats are recommending it. In this case, this guy it's already passed. So what is he going to do now? And frankly, listening to it, the guy said, hey, I'm not paying you. And then now he tries to add a whole bunch of, $700 to cancel a contract. I mean, that's just stupid. It's greedy. If they don't want to pay you, they don't want to work with you, then why are you going to make them pay to cancel? And let's say down the road situations change and they do want to work with you and that your prices are up, but they're not going to come to you because you billed them $700 to cancel their account. That's just dumb. You get them to pay in advance. They work for that 30 days. And if they don't want to do it, keep on going, then they don't keep on going. And like here it said, they also canceled the contract, but couldn't say why because of the NDA. And then he's complaining he didn't get paid. If they canceled the contract already, he's not going to get paid. And so how do you avoid all this? Pay up front. Pay for the month of work up front. Next, after 4 months, my website will not rank in Google for my brand name. There's a couple things in here that he or she pointed out, the poster pointed out, that I thought were interesting. And one was, let's see, where was it? Closed an old WordPress site and redirected it to my name photography. That tells me that this name, the photography, the new one, is a brand new domain. So if you close the old one and then redirected it to the new one, and you didn't get those recrawled, the redirect's not seen yet, so it doesn't matter. And then all the backlinks that were going to the old one to the new one were not re-seen and were not recrawled, so it doesn't matter. So you got to get all that recrawled. Another thing that you could look at is do a search. He said he searched for my name photography or my name wedding photography. That's a keyword modification, and he doesn't see it, right? So I would actually look for the domain itself, mynamephotography.com, and see if it's there. If it's not in the search results, go my name photography .com and see if it's there. If it's not there, your domain that you just bought is already fried. It's roasted, and you got to start over. 4 months seems like a long time. There's not enough information to go back in here and look again, but I would look for, is my domain penalized? That's number one. 2, do I have the prerequisite social media accounts that Google is using to supplement and improve branding: Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and now Reddit a little bit. TikTok was one of those too. Do I have schema showing the knowledge graph? Do I have backlinks that are going to my website with branding? And do I have citations from industry appropriate websites, which essentially are links saying, like a personal injury attorney wants to be on lawyers.com, right? Those kind of things to validate the brand. And I'm going to go back to it. Do I have links linking to me with my brand as anchor text? That's the easiest and fastest way to rank for a brand name. And if you're not doing that by 4 months, there's something going on, probably technically or in link-wise, that is keeping that in place. So look at that. Next, helping to choose schema, and this is the final question, is how do you pick the right schema for you? So in this one, he's doing comic strips. Where does it say it? Updated daily with new or rerun newspaper or comic strips. So he doesn't have a comic series. He has there's individual comic stories. So this person could leverage comic series, which is recommended right here, for the categories. So you do comic series New York Times, comic series LA Times, comic series whatever. The sources, those would be the categories, and then each of the new comic stories that go under those would actually use the comic story schema. And then that thought process would really apply to any kind of schema. So in this example here, I typed this up already. Say I have a podcast. SEO This Week is my podcast. So I have a series that's SEO This Week. And my page would be, my web page would have, is about, or is part of, or main entity of pages podcast series. And then I throw that in there, right? And then the season, let's say this is season 4 of SEO This Week, that would be the category. So the category page would have collection page schema and then main entity of page podcast season, and then it would list all the episodes for 2025, right? And then my episode page would have podcast episode and all that information that goes along with that. And you can do that with everything. Let's do another one. Let's say article. Right, so you have an article. So if I did this, right, this would be an article. It's not a blog post. It's an article. If you do a blog posting, let's say that's in general, here's my thoughts on blah, blah, blah. Think social media post on a blog, right? You can see it kind of right here. It's not an article. It's just more of a thoughts vomit page. So that would be blog posting. The news article, obviously, if you're writing one of these, that would be a news article. So you'd use news article. Scholarly article, if you're doing like a medical, think of like research paper, use scholarly. If you're doing a paper on signs and symptoms of heroin addiction, medical scholar article, as long as you're doing some researching for it, right? Same with if you're a consultant, you can do that advertiser content article. How would that look? That would look like, I don't know if you remember the old days of the Wielder and the weightlifting magazines, and you think you're reading the article and it turns out you're reading an ad, right? That would be a use for that. Opinion news. You have an opinion on the Trump election. You're talking about a new updated news thing that happened, but you're giving your opinion on it. That's what that would be about. So there's plenty of, that's how you use this site and pick the right schema. A lot of developers like to lazy down into the top level. They'll use this article. Or in the case of the recommended here, they're saying use the creative work. But comic series is actually a sub-schema of creative work. A lot of developers want to stay in that top level schema because it's just easier to do in larger scales. In regards, like take Yoast for instance, you can't switch from, I think you can do news to article, and that might even be Yoast Pro, but for the most part, you can't switch to the different kinds. You're stuck with the one kind they can do because they have to implement a system that is working for as many people as possible so they can reduce their support tickets. At the end of the day, that's what that's about, right? It's scaling. So scale requires less complication versus not scaling and doing it, air quotes, the right way. So that's the issue with plugins, because you can't get as granular as you would do with this, doing it manually or with templates. So when this guy, and a lot of people are having the same issue, how do you choose the right schema? You got to go over here and think at the top level and get it to spit out everything that goes underneath it. Comic story is creative work. And then if you go here and we look comic, there's the series, the issue, the story. Series, Doonesbury. Issue, February 2025. Stories, the different comic strings in there. Cover art for your images. That's how you can leverage this stuff a lot better. It's all right here inside of the schema.org. And in general, a lot of this stuff overlaps. Creative work is the primary, but what makes it comic series is this section right here, right? So that's how you can get the most out of it and tell the search engines, all of them, AI and or the actual standards that we know and love, what your page is about and what it represents. Okay, I hope that you found this interesting. Hope you like the format. I have fun putting this together, and I'll continue on with these. And with that, hit like, subscribe, hit the bell button. Tell your friends that we're back online so we can get the viewership back up and get everything rolling again. And I do appreciate you, and thank you very much.